But first up, delighted to welcome Roger Varian to the show. We've spoken across the airwaves many times on Luck on Sunday, but never have I had the pleasure of getting him here in person. Such are the demands on a man with hundreds of horses and, more importantly, 3 children on a Sunday. Happy Easter, Roger.
Yeah, happy Easter to you, Nick. Good to be here.
And there is a genuine reason why I've managed to secure you this Sunday, isn't there?
Well, it works early in the season, doesn't it? We're not as frenetic as we are in the summer. And Hanako and the kids are all in Japan, so no family commitments today.
That is the real reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you find balancing that? Clearly, we're all people with busy lives, busy family lives, but for someone who has to be supervising that many horses, being all over the world, and raising a young family in Newmarket, how do you cope with that? Pretty well, by the looks of it.
Yeah, look, it presents challenges. You know, training horses is a 24/7, occupation, very much a lifestyle. But, I compare how things have been over the last 10 years, having children, to some of my friends who might not work in racing, might work in the city, and they might work Monday to Friday, get up before the kids are up, return home after the kids have gone to bed, see none of them at all through the week, and then, really have to commit weekends to them. I'm very lucky. We're local, we're in Newmarket, we live practically on site. Yes, we work very hard, we work all day, we work early mornings, we work late nights, but I can dip in and out of a house, I can dip in and out of their lives, and, really I see them every day, even if it's just for short moments, and, I try not to miss bedtime, and, so, yes, we're busy, but I find there's lots of opportunity to get to, little moments with the kids most days.
Are you someone who's quite good at compartmentalising? At sort of separating and apportioning little bits of family time and being able to concentrate 100% on the training when you need to?
I think so, yeah. Always try to keep things real, and the kids are a great asset really in keeping everything in perspective. I can go home and switch off pretty quick. I generally don't take things home with me. There's moments in training racehorse when you can't have the kids around. At the races, big races, when there's pressure on results, it's very hard for you to manage your own expectations, other people's expectations around you, deal with your own disappointment and maybe upset, and at the same time play father. So, at certain times, you struggle to do everything at the same time. But in the right moments, I can switch off very quickly.
If I'd asked you 15 years ago, for example, where you would be now, what do you think you would have said then? What did you want then?
I would have probably said, maybe not with a heap of confidence, but I would have said to be somewhere similar to where I am now.
Yeah.
I was hugely ambitious as a youngster, and when I was assistant trainer, with the ambition to be a trainer, I didn't have an ambition just to train horses. I wanted to train horses to a higher level as possible, as many as I could, and to train horses with a lot of quality. So yes, it's very hard, when you're young, to predict how the dots will align going forward. But I would have certainly had ambitious plans 15 years ago. So
you said you're hugely ambitious, hugely driven. I mean, that's self-evident given the way things have turned out. But was that something that was always in you from a very young boy? Were you a very competitive child?
I can't really remember. I guess I was, yeah. Yeah, I guess I was. Always quite self-motivated and driven. I've been very fortunate in life, but I fell very quickly at an early age on a passion. And I've been able to turn that passion into a way of life, and work, basically. So I think when you're really passionate about something, it's much easier to give your all, every day into what you do. So I know that not everyone's as privileged to work and do what they love doing, and I'm one of those lucky people that is. So I guess, the ambition and, chasing success becomes part of that. But I'm very fortunate that it's actually about something that I love doing.
So it has to be something that you want to do in order for you to be motivated. You couldn't just sit and, grind yourself into the floor doing something that wasn't that interesting to you.
Well, I'm lucky that I don't have to, and I guess a lot of people do. Everyone has to work in life.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone is lucky enough to work in something that they generally have a passion about.
No.
I do. So, I consider myself fortunate from that angle.
And where did the spark come from? What really instilled that passion in you?
As a kid, really, my mother's from a farming family, and she put us on ponies as kids, and we rode, and I hunted, and I did a bit of pony club, and that was my connection to the equine world, I guess. But from that, I always loved horse racing. I loved going to the local point-to-point. I loved the Grand National. That sucked me in. I was a huge jump racing fan as a kid. Channel 4 racing on a Saturday. I was a child who would probably be upset if I had to go somewhere on a Saturday and miss Channel 4 racing. So I guess I was a fan. The ponies got me going in the equine world, and then I became a fan of horse racing. And as a youngster, as young as I could remember, I wanted to be a jump jockey growing up. So I was, probably much to my mother and father's horror, I was very tunnel vision. I couldn't wait to escape school and start working in racing.
What was the first time you rode a racehorse? What was your sort of first experience of this industry?
Yeah, so we grew up very close to Kingston Blount point-to-point course, and Allen and Lawney Hill, training Aston Rowan, 2 miles down the road from where we were living, and weekends and Easter holidays as a maybe 13-year-old, 14-year-old going into Allen and Lawney's yard, mucking out and riding a few pointer-pointers would have been my first exposure, I guess. And
they're people who are tremendous to ground you, I would guess.
Very much so. Proper people, proper horse people, and I was green as grass. Of course, I've got no horse racing in my family, and but it was a great introduction for me.
And what were your parents thinking at the time? I mean, were they you're smiling. Were they encouraging you, or were they sort of trying to steer you in a different direction?
Well, I'm smiling because I'm a parent now, and I have to think what I would do when the time comes that our kids start choosing their path in life. And all I can say is that I can't remember ever any doubt from mum and dad about what I wanted to do. And I've got no doubt they must have had huge doubt. But all I remember is encouragement.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So on you went. When did you land at Josh Gifford's?
So I was had a short spell in America. Well, more than a short spell. I had 2.5 years in America from age 15 to 17 because my father's business took him to California. So I finished high school in America, and I came back from America and I worked 15 months for Ian and Toki Mackay. And I had my first summer in Newmarket, aged 18, working for Michael Jarvis as a summer job. But I still had the ambition to be a jump jockey. And I wrote to 5 jumps trainers asking to, with ambition to be a conditional jockey. And the only one who wrote back to me was Josh Gifford. And I drove down the next day and met with him and took the bags down about 2 days later and started work that Monday.
He was sort of coming toward the closing stages of what had been an amazing training career at that point. Just give me an idea of what it was like at Findon then. What the people were like, what the atmosphere was like. It always strikes me that you think of them as very happy days.
100%, and I don't think I'll go back and change that for the world, really. I'd sort of call them my university years. I think I was there from age 18 to 21, 3 years. Fantastic time, great people, met lifelong friends. Josh was a fantastic man to work for, very old-fashioned, demanded a lot. You had to work hard. Very fair man, though, as well. I'd like to hear you enjoying yourself as well, and I thought it was a great, not only a proper introduction to the industry, but a place where you could learn proper life skills. And Josh, he's just a great man. I have very fond memories of working for him, and as I say, I've got lifelong friends from Findon, who I'm still close to now.
Yeah, Leighton Aspel, Owen Burrows, Philip Hyde, all there at the same time as you. Am I right in thinking you were quite keen to make an impression on the governor in those days?
Not quite sure what you're referring to, but I'm sure I was. Yes, absolutely. I think back then, even fully aware that first impressions are what stick, and you know, when you're trying to succeed, you're trying to make an impression on anyone, I guess.
Was it not you that stayed behind to do a bit of late evening stables one day? Have I got that right? And he came round and asked you why you weren't down the pub with all the others.
I think I know the story you're referring to, and it's probably a bit too long to tell on the show. It might not be a Sunday morning story either, Nick, but no. Yeah, as I say, Josh taught you life skills. You know, he demanded a lot. He expected you to work hard, but he liked actually to see you play hard as well. And you know, he loved the banter with the boys and girls, and it was like being part of a family. And I got very fond memories from there, and you know, had a very undistinguished, unsuccessful career as a jump jockey. But I wouldn't trade those 3 years.
Do you think your career as a jump jockey could have gone better but for different opportunities, or were you someone who thought, well, those are my limitations and I kind of know what they are?
I think I probably could have done better, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily to do with where I was. But on reflection and being honest with myself, I probably didn't want it enough. Although it was my childhood ambition, I think I tip my hat off to those jump jockeys. You know, I think you've got to want it, and you've got to be a touch mad. And I enjoyed it, but I don't know if I loved it enough, and I never missed it once.
Really? And you didn't have quite that kind of daredevil?
I don't think so.
Streak?
I probably told myself I did at the time, but no, I mean, going into those fences surrounded by 20 others, you know, at 30 miles an hour or whatever, and I consider myself a horseman, and I remember Josh telling me I was very good on the schooling ground, a good schooling jockey, and why it didn't quite click on a race course. Deep down I probably knew, I probably thought, I'm not so sure about this.
You have to have courage of a different kind, of course, to want to set up as a trainer. But in your early 20s, did you just feel that you could just buccaneer your way through?
Yeah, as I said earlier, it's very hard to see how the dots will align looking forward. Mm-hmm. But I had always an inner confidence that, you know, I would be able to succeed. I think I was very fortunate to work for such a great man in Michael Jarvis, who took me on at a very young age 21, put me straight in as his assistant, and nurtured me along. And I had 10 years with Michael, and I guess my confidence grew that I had a future as a trainer at some point over those 10 years, or at various points over those 10 years. And you see opportunity along the way, and it's what you do with the opportunity. I think to a degree, yes, you have to be knowledgeable, you have to be hard-working, you have to pick up various skills along the way, but you have to also be an opportunist and take opportunities when they come your way. And I was very fortunate to have all that time with Michael and have enough time to be able to plan and have a vision, and also for Michael to be very open with me that at some point there'd be an opportunity for me there.
We always talked when he was still with us of Michael as a great trainer, as a man who thought deeply about the game, as someone who was an example both as a trainer and as a man to an awful lot of people in the sport. From your unique perspective, why do you think that was?
So sorry, Nick, just ask me the question again.
Why do you think he was seen as an example, as a man and as a trainer?
Well, there was no falsities with Michael. What you saw is what you got. He was an incredibly, first and foremost, he was a gentleman. You know, he was an incredibly nice man, well-mannered, hard-working, easy to like, great fun, you know, away from his professional side, you know, a man you'd warm to quickly and love to spend time with. and but Michael Jarvis as a trainer was exceptionally gifted, very natural. Taught me a lot. He didn't tell you everything. He expected you to use your eyes and your ears and observe, and that's the way he trained. He was very sharp on the detail, and I guess it's something that I don't think you can learn quickly. So to be with someone like Michael Jarvis for 10 years, you learn over time. But he doesn't tell you everything. He expects you to listen and to watch. And so, his CV tells you how successful he was. And when you spend time with him, you realise why he was so successful.
So can you train just like he trained, or would actually that be impossible?
I think it's impossible, because I think every single person trains a little bit differently. I think there's no one set rules. I think you take your guidelines and you adapt things to suit, to suit the way you do things, and you probably never stop adapting. I probably train horses slightly differently this year to last year, slightly differently last year to the year before. It's a hard thing to do exactly the same every year, because you're dealing with animals who are changing all the time, presenting you with different challenges. And I think that you take a model of training perhaps off someone. Maybe I took a model of training from Michael Jarvis, because that's really all I knew. And over time you adapt slightly yourself, and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. But it's very hard to take a blueprint and stick to it exactly.
I mean, do you look back now? I mean, you're still incredibly young. You're still only 43?
43.
43. It's a good age. But they're big years of kindness to you than they have to me. But do you ever look back now over some of the early years of your training career and think, oh my God, what was I doing there? I could have done this, this and this, and I could have made that horse that kind of a horse?
100%. I probably look back this week and thought, oh, it's a game that on a weekly basis you'll carry a regret with you, because you're making multiple decisions on a daily basis about multiple horses, and you're not going to get it right every time. And I think it's the acceptance of a trainer, knowing that you're not going to get it right every time, that helps you improve, I guess. And I know, I'll do something next week which will be the wrong decision or the wrong move, hopefully only subtly. But you can always look back and think, I would have done it slightly differently, because the only time we know if you're right or not is often in the result. Is in the race you choose, the distance, the way you ride the horse, have you gone 2 weeks too early, have you overcooked a horse? And at the time you're making the decisions that you believe are right, but only in the event of a horse running are you proved right or wrong. Yeah. So then there can be a lot of regret. Comes with the nature of what we do.
But you can wear that fairly readily, fairly easily, can you?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I can reflect. I reflect on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. I can look back to last year. I'm not going to tell you, but I could tell you, what I did wrong and what I did right. And I think if you can't do that as a racehorse trainer, then you'd be not being honest with yourself.
You gave an interview to Marcus Townend in the Daily Mail in 2014, where you talked about the death of your brother, Chris, in 2010. He was murdered in 2010, an horrific experience for everyone close to him. And you said that had clearly a massively profound impact on you and your family, as it would, but also a similarly profound impact on the way you are as a trainer and the way that you operate your career. Tell me a little about Chris, if you will.
Yeah, so a long time ago now, but no, Chris was my elder brother. He was 18 months my elder, so we were very close. Grew up together, went to school together, played sport together. Very close throughout our lives. And yes, he was brutally murdered when he was age 32. And I think most people in life go through emotional trauma. to varying degrees. I think what my family went through when Chris was murdered, I wouldn't wish on anyone. But once something's happened in life, it's happened and you're not going to change it. And how we as a family dealt with it, I think I'll always be immensely proud, you know, how Mum and Dad came through it, and my sister. And of course it's incredibly tough at the time, and things get easier over time. That's very true. But it also gives you a perspective on life, which is very real. And I very quickly realised how delicate we were. And if I'd coasted through life up until the age of 31, thinking I'd be here forever, I quickly realised that that's not guaranteed. And that I'm here today, but I might not be here tomorrow. And it gives a very clear perspective on my life. And I think I would never wish to use the death of my brother as motivation, but I'm motivated to try to achieve what he didn't get a chance to achieve. But I'm also but I also find strength from what we went through back then to deal with some of the challenges that life presents now. And I think I'm not as afraid as I might be under certain circumstances, knowing what we've come through in the past and thinking nothing can really be as bad as that.
So out of something so hideous, and there's no other word for it really, you find great strength, almost strength, because it sounds as though your mum and dad, very, very special people. You find great strength. You find courage of your convictions. Exactly that.
I think, you know, it's a hard, quite a hard thing to talk about and explain and to get it right, but very quickly, almost within the first 24 hours, I knew I couldn't change what happened. And I think through the emotional trauma that everyone, not everyone, but that people go through in life, you either emerge from it stronger or weaker. And I was going to emerge from it stronger, and that didn't mean I wasn't going to suffer and grieve. But I think I came out of it stronger.
And I think from what you've told me about your childhood and the way you grew up, and I think a lot of people would have backed you to emerge from it stronger as well, even though no one can, so few people can possibly imagine what you went through at the time. With each passing year and with each passing success, what drives you on? What spurs you on now?
I'm not sure where to start. So I'd say so much, Nick. You know, I think we're an insecure breed as trainers. You know, a racehorse trainer. I shouldn't think there's one out there who isn't a little bit insecure. You know, the business is challenging, and it's a public results business that we're in. So I guess what spurs me on is knowing that we've got to keep being successful to survive.
Yeah.
You know, we're not guaranteed to train 200 horses next year or the year after. You know, that will only come if we continue to be successful. You know, we're presented with you know, countless problems almost on a daily basis, and you know, key decisions, and it's getting it right and getting results right, and I think what drives me on is that I'm only 43, and yes, I've been training 11 years, but nothing's guaranteed. We're not guaranteed to be successful this year or next year or the year after. You know, we've made super foundations to get through the next 20 years, but it's not guaranteed that we get through the next 20 years. You have to keep working hard. I think the moment that you sit still and you're happy with your lot, you know, you slide downhill very quickly. So, you know, we're always thinking we have to improve. You know, the last couple of years we've been, I don't know, 8th, 9th, 10th in the trainers table, where there's masses of room for improvement. You know, we want to, of course, you know, climb as high up that table as we can. So, you know, I think the job is only fractionally done. We've so much more to do. If we stopped being driven now, we'd fall off a cliff tomorrow.
And I suppose, especially with flat racing, especially in the UK, where it sort of sits in this position where its sort of reputation and heritage is at right angles to its existing commercial success relative to the rest of the world, you're always trying to think, well, where are the next raft of owners coming from? How much does that preoccupy you?
Almost daily.
Yeah,
you know, it is a worry, and I think that we have to look long term. The whole industry has to look long term. I think often we're guilty of short term decisions, and I'm very fortunate, and a lot of people are very fortunate, that we've got this great bank of owners invested in UK flat racing at the moment. And again, they're not guaranteed to be there tomorrow, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And without getting drawn too much into racing politics, you know,
there's plenty of time for that later.
It's a concern that we're becoming a nursery to the international racing community. And the concern is that we're becoming a trading industry, and that so many of our better horses have been traded, and we understand why. But the danger is we wake up in 10 years and our racing is not as strong as it is now, as it was 30 years ago. And the danger in 20 years is that we wake up and our product isn't strong enough to trade. So, you know, we really have to do something now to be able to retain our owners and our horses and keep our industry strong for years to come. And
from your perspective, does it all boil down to what those races are worth, what you are running for? Is that the way you envisage it, or is it more complex than that?
No, I think the crux is prize money, and I think that it's the middle tier. I think that our group races compare favourably, certainly with the rest of Europe, maybe not the rest of the world, but with Ireland, France, our group races are comparable.
Somewhat, yeah.
I think that I don't necessarily think that the Class 6 horses should be racing for any more money, but I think the middle tier, your Class 5, your Class 4, your Class 3, has to be more tractable for the owners, and there has to be a better return for the majority of horses, and for the majority of horses that all trainers have, whether you're a large trainer, a small trainer, a middle trainer, everyone generally has horses in the middle tier. And that's where the majority of our owners are invested in, and that's where there's got to be a slightly better return.
But presumably you're talking about that because as horses, you're talking about horses who are upwardly mobile, working their way through those middle tiers, so they don't get taken out of the system, rather than horses that are just kind of making up the numbers, if you will.
Well, I think you can take both, for example. So your upwardly mobile horse who's rated 87 and progressive, you know, there's got to be sufficient prize money for that horse to at least pay for itself, which there isn't at the moment. And then for those horses that hover maybe in the 80s and are consistent and sound and win a race every year, hard to win too, get placed a few times and barely cover 2 months training fees, that's got to be different as well. And, you know, it will help us retain a lot of the owners, you know, because the racehorse owner is really the reason I'm here, you're here, all my staff are here. The racehorse owner is picking up racing's bill, and although it's widely understood that it's a hobby, I think it's got to be a fairer hobby for them.
Well, it's an ecosystem, isn't it?
Yep.
Where we're all codependent. I mean, no one's very dependent on me, but yes, you and I are dependent on the owners. We're also dependent on all the people who have a bet every day, which is a topic we're going to come on to a little bit later. Roger, for the moment, thank you very much. After this break, we're going to get the opportunity to talk through some of the horses, some of your winners at the Craven meeting, and get your perspective on some of the classic trials as well. And Neil Channing will be joining us, so do stay tuned.